I think we're ready to go. I'm Jessica Smith, the press secretary for the UI division here at CDLE. We're going to be talking about the American Rescue Plan that was passed by Congress this week. Joe will handle that, and then we'll get over to Phil. He's going to talk about some optimizations and UI workload, and Cheryl will go over our new daily dashboard before we get to Ryan for our weekly data. So, Joe.
Thank you, Jessica, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. As many of you know, covered widely in the press, Congress did pass the American Rescue Plan this week. We are grateful that Congress took the necessary steps in passing the American Rescue Plan before the current UI extension programs expired, saving hundreds and thousands of Coloradans the financial hardship and gap in payments we saw earlier this year due to the delay in federal action with the CARES Act and the Continuing Assistance Act extensions. While the American Rescue Plan is not yet signed by the president, we expect that will happen Friday. We want to avoid a gap in payments for claimants who will be exhausting their benefits before the current programs expire. I think this program extension will, without a gap, will allow us to do that. It is our top priority right now that we ensure Coloradans experience a seamless transition as they continue to need to be on financial assistance through the unemployment programs. The new extensions we know are going to extend through the first week of September. Want to let you know that we emailed all the state unemployment insurance claimants as well as the Continued Assistance Act claimants yesterday about the American Rescue Plan benefits, work search reminders, and scam alerts that continue to happen throughout the nation and in Colorado. Claimants who have exhausted the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance or the PUA program and the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, the PEUC claims, will have additional funding added to their claims automatically and will be able to continue to certify benefits. The new legislation extends the end date of the federal programs 29 weeks or to the week of September 6th. Want to know the law increases the number of weeks available for PUA claims from 50 to 79, and the pandemic PEUC programs from 24 to 53 weeks. The weekly supplemental benefit with FPUC, Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, will remain at $300. This is good news for us. We didn't have to reprogram our systems for another amount or a different amount. And we also will be extended FPUC through September 6th. CDLE earlier last week, in preparation of possibly moving to the expiration of the Continuing Assistance Act, asked the Department of Labor for their approval to go ahead and continue paying benefits regardless of receiving their guidance. And we would catch up or program our systems to any changes that could happen after the fact. And so we did get that approval, and CDLE will not experience, once the president signs the law into effect, we now have the ability that we won't have to program our new systems with any changes, and we'll continue paying those benefits. And if there are changes, we'll program our systems after the fact. We know that this caused, with the end of the CARES Act and the introduction of the Continuing Assistance Act earlier this year, caused a lot of hardship in Colorado, and we wanted to avoid that this time around. So I think that is tremendous news for the people that continue to remain impacted by the pandemic and can't transition back to full-time employment. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Phil.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to tack on to what Joe mentioned there. We'd like to actually thank our federal partner for listening to input from all of the various states and jurisdictions that indicated a desire to try to avoid a gap for individuals currently on unemployment insurance benefits. Want to clarify a couple of things. Most claimants will avoid a gap in pay. However, there is a group of claimants who have already exhausted claims. These would be your pandemic unemployment assistance individuals who were backdated so far. Essentially, they backdated clear to February 2nd of 2020, that they have already exhausted, or they will have exhausted before the end of December 26th. And then we're able to start receiving the 11 weeks starting with December 27th. These individuals at this point in time will still receive or still have that gap between when they exhausted and up to December 26th. That's because the Continued Assistance Act was effective specifically December 27th of 21. And the American Rescue Plan that was just signed does not change the effective date of the Continued Assistance Act. It really just extends and adds some weeks of benefits onto the claim. Another note here, some of you may have done some math already. The new extension adds 29 weeks to both programs, both PUA and PEUC, but the legislation specifically says at this point in time that the end date is September 6th of 2021. So you need to remember a little history here. This bill initially started in the House, where they were adding 24 weeks of benefits and has initially proposed to have everything end August 28th of 2021. When it went to the Senate made some changes, including lowering the FPUC amount from $400 per week to $300 per week, but had an original plan to allow these programs to actually expire coinciding with the end of the federal fiscal year. And so they added up to 29 weeks instead of 24, meaning that the program would have initially ended on October 2nd of 2021. However, after the vote-a-rama with the Senate and a compromise as a result of Senator Manchin, the Senate compromised to make the program end September 6th of 2021, but did not change the added weeks to add 25. The House ultimately approved it at 29 weeks, but the end date is still September 6th of 2021. And there's no legislative action to create or extend the previous phase-out period in the CAA or the Continued Assistance Act. So at this point in time, it appears the program ends on September 6th. However, there may be individuals who don't receive all of those funds available unless there's additional congressional action or any additional guidance from U.S. Dole as we move forward. What's allowed us to be able to avoid the gap here is thankfully Congress apparently also listened to the people this time in the states, and they kept things simple. And essentially what they've done is added money and added weeks to the program. They did not add any programmatic changes within their act at this point in time. So this allows it to be a relatively easy lift for the vendor. And as long as the president signs the bill tomorrow, we don't expect a gap in benefits. Current PEUC and PUA claimants can just keep doing what they've been doing, continue to certify their weekly benefits every Sunday. Those additional benefits will be loaded onto their claims once we're able to establish and complete the programming. If a claimant exhausts their regular UI claim, they can file a new PEUC claim at that time. Claimants who will be exhausting their PEUC and PUA claims this week ending, so the vast majority of individuals will have those funds added to their claims in time to complete their weekly certification for the week ending March 20th, which they would do on March 21st. Claimants who have already exhausted their PEUC and PUA claims will be able to reopen their claims sometime during the week ending March 20th next week and be able to file certifications after March 20th and any that they have already missed where they had exhausted previously. An important note here for our systems is if the president signs this act tomorrow, because we cannot let it go into place until he has signed that act. It's not a law. For those of you who remember Schoolhouse Rock, it's just a bill right now. It's not a law yet. So if the president signs tomorrow, the system will go down. Our system, MyUI Plus, will go down from 7 p.m. Friday night until 3 a.m. Saturday morning to update the programs. And that is only if he signs tomorrow. If somehow he does not sign tomorrow, but he were to sign on Saturday, then that go down for the system would be pushed out to Saturday so we can accomplish the same means. And with that, I'll move over to Cher.
Thank you, Phil. That's great information. So I'd like to just provide a quick update on our newly launched UI Daily dashboard. This is accessible from our homepage at coloradoui.gov. We made this site public on the 26th of February. Since that time, we've had about 30,000 visitors. The majority of those, 21,000, visiting the MyUI Health Check page. This is the page dedicated to explaining what issues we've identified within the MyUI Plus system, the anticipated fix estimate, and then certainly when those issues are fixed, changing the status of those issues from red or yellow to green. So in fact, just this morning, we changed one issue from yellow to green. This is the double dip issue that was impacting about 6,000 claimants. And so as we continue to identify issues, we will work with the vendor to deploy fixes, post them on the dashboard. And this has certainly become a critical resource for our claimants who are not sure what the status of their claim is when they may be stuck in an issue within the system. Just keep in mind, though, while we have addressed the majority of issues that we've identified, there still may be issues that arise. And so we'll certainly continue to post those on the dashboard. But keep in mind, there are a number of issues that could create a benefit payment hold on a claim that are not related to the system. So an example of these would be somebody indicates they're not able and available to work. Perhaps they have out-of-state wages or an out-of-state claim that requires further adjudication, a variety of other eligibility issues that could be impacting a benefit payment. So just want to be clear that not all payment delays are a result of MyUI Plus. Certainly we feel like with the issues we've identified, we have deployed fixes for the issues impacting the greatest number of claimants. But as we identify additional system areas for enhancement, we'll go ahead and post those on the dashboard. We also have a plan to add a data and metrics page to maybe dig in a little bit deeper to some of the data points that we share on this weekly press call. We also added an FAQ page as a result of claimant feedback. This page has received about 7,000 visitors since adding that to the site within the last week. So it continues to be a useful tool for the claimant community. Look forward to moving any outstanding yellow items to green. Note that the items that are out there now that need additional attention really are looked at on a nightly basis. And as a population moves into one of those issues, we work with the vendor to move those claimants into a fixed status with their claim. With that, let's go ahead and get Ryan's update.
Thanks, Shara. Just a quick update for you all. Most of this is captured in the press release and the supporting documents we provide every week. We estimate that around 12,000 regular UI initial claims were filed last week, and that's a slight downtick from what we've seen over the past few weeks. Again, we are attempting to adjust these claims activity for fraud. As noted in the press release, we do have lower initial claims for PUA than previously reported. Again, that's due to US DOL guidance on how to officially report PUA initial claims. Again, we do actually have to submit a report every week to them indicating how many initial claims were filed for PUA as well as continued claims. These revised figures now only include those filing a new PUA claim and those who had intervening employment between active gaps within the PUA program. And so what was dropped off was simply those individuals that had a PUA balance, but they had a gap in being able to file between the CARES Act and the Continued Assistance Act. So it's really just a definitional change. CDLE does estimate that a little over 207,000 people requested payment last week. And that specifically includes regular UI, PUA, and PEUC. In total, including all programs that we notate on the press release, the department paid out $173 million last week. Close to $1 billion have been paid out since the start of phase 1 on January 31st. If we go all the way back to the beginning of the pandemic, when we first started seeing uptick in claims activity and benefit payouts, since March 29th of last year, the department has now distributed nearly $8 billion in UI payments. For those who are following borrowing in the trust fund, we have now borrowed a little over $900 million from the federal unemployment account, and that's since mid-August of last year. And with that, I'm happy to take questions, but I'll kick it on to Shara or Jessica.
Okay, Jessica.
I think we can open it up for questions now. So if you have a question, feel free to hop in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask it verbally. So questions today? Oh, here we go. Blair asked if there is an additional reprogramming after the guidance From USDOL, how long do you expect that to take to reprogram? Bill, do you want to take that?
That would depend, Blair, on what the type of guidance is. Based on the current act, really nothing changed, which was within the Continued Assistance Act, except for adding additional weeks. So even in contacts with our federal partners, there is no belief that there is going to be any kind of large change through a program letter or guidance coming in the near future.
Tamara has a question about fraud. She asked, are we going to adjust any regular UI claims due to fraud?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Sorry, Jessica. I think that was directed to me, but feel free to follow up too. But yeah, we still need to, I think, program in some official fraud adjustments. Right now, we're taking an estimate-based approach. So I hope over the next month or so to start working on that and getting kind of a better feel of these numbers, especially for regular UI. And once we have that, we will revise back to probably the start of My UI Plus go live, beginning of January.
Dennis has a question about fraud as well. He's asking if we have any fraud cases investigated or should we follow up with the AG on that. Cher, I think we should have them reach out to the Attorney General's office. I don't believe we have any formal cases officially filed yet. If we do, we will be announcing that. Is there anything else, Cher, that we can add to that?
No, I think you're accurate. I will drop in the PIO's contact information for the AG's office, so everyone has that.
Andy Kenny asked, is there anyone who hasn't yet resumed benefits from the late December extension, phase 3, etc.?
Yeah, I can try to take that, Andy. Andy, again, this is another one of those depends questions. We just had a series of fixes that went into place last night that should have resolved a fair number of issues for a large number of people who were still having difficulty receiving benefits after the most recent phase rollout. There will still be some that continue to be ongoing, in particular if it involves out-of-state wages that are being transferred in. We are still working to take care of a few issues there. And the work share program, at some point, if you haven't heard from employers, you may hear from a couple of them participating in that program. Quick reminder on that program is it was a very small program before the pandemic, had essentially 6 plans or 6 employers participating. Now had well over some 1,000 odd plans, I believe, several employers. In cases where we have had employers who maybe change the plan quite often or deviate from the plan and ultimately furlough individuals without having removed them from the plan, that has created a cascading level of problems for those individuals and claimants and for being able to keep all of that programming straight to ensure payment for those individuals. So there are a couple of employers, particularly for which data fixes are going in, that go in on a regular basis to try to correct those issues for individuals. But that would be the primary group, individuals with outstanding out-of-state wages, and again, work share program individuals.
So Andy has a follow-up question in terms of phases left, or is it more just like cleaning up glitches at this point?
So it's primarily cleaning up glitches at this point, but I will remind you, Andy, the one thing that hasn't rolled out yet for what we believe is a population of around 2,000 individuals is the mixed earner unemployment compensation, which was the extra $100 per week. That will still need to be programmed and worked on. A quick note here, the American Recovery Plan did not extend MEUC. So MEUC actually officially ends on March 14th or the week ending March 13th. So we will still need to do programming for that group to do the verification of income from gig economy. And again, that's based on net income, and to provide and include those additional $100 per week there.
We can go to Aldo next. Aldo's asking, Employers are wondering about their UI premiums because of the increase in fraud. Can you talk about how long we have to restore the UI trust fund?
That'll be interesting because I think Ryan has a role to play here related to this. So part of that's going to depend, Aldo, on how long the pandemic continues to be ongoing. As the pandemic continues to be ongoing, the trust fund's at a point now where we are continuing to borrow at that 0% borrowing. Again, the 0% borrowing has also been extended until September 6th. So as long as we're having that, we're not really restoring anything in the UI trust fund at this point in time. As the pandemic winds down and we're paying out fewer benefits, obviously, then the trust fund would be able to start being restored. But then we have that outgoing borrowing to take care of, to pay back related to those items. But other than that, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan to see what kind of projections he may think.
Thanks, Phil. And I'll keep it fairly general, but just remember at the end of March last year, we had the trust fund balance of 1.1 billion approximately. Since then, in regular UI, we've paid out nearly $2.8 billion. So it's just an incredible amount of benefits have been paid out. And again, we are borrowing around $900 million, and we expect that to grow over this year, just because benefits paid out will exceed contributions received from employers. I will point to a couple things though. SB 207 did freeze the maximum taxable wage base at $13,600 for 2021. So that is a cost savings for employers. However, they did move to a higher rate schedule given our June 30th balance of around trust fund balance of around 400 million last year. We've also, per the governor executive order last year, we've held harmless, including benefits charged to employers due to COVID. So that also helps their experience rating and basically keeps where they are along the experience rate schedule fixed. So there are a few things that unfortunately are unavoidable in terms of, huge amount of benefits paid out. We're shifting to a higher rate schedule. In terms of projections, it's very difficult to tell right now, given what recovery might look like. At this point, we're still expecting insolvency probably through 2024. Again, that's something that we will constantly update we do update that every quarter. And it really is also dependent on what does this recovery look like. So let me know if you need anything else for that, Aldo. Thanks.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you. And thank you, Phil. I just want to add in there, Aldo, that, there are more than 20 states that have $0 in their trust funds and are borrowing from Title 12 at 0 interest. And that 0 interest was extended through September 6th as well. But again, this is an issue that we have been on since I've been at the department for a little over 2 years, knowing that our trust fund needed to get to solvency. And so working with the business community to get to a place where we were building up the trust fund in good years so that we could pay out during lean years like we're in now. And so we are working with the business community, and we're working with our federal delegation as well as our associations we belong to with the Department of Labor, asking for relief. So looking at, are there ways that they can give us relief and help states that are in deficit with their trust fund to help employers out as we look for them to start hiring as we get the vaccinated issue resolved and more people can return to work safely. And so we are communicating with business leaders here in chambers to make sure that they're aware that we're trying to shore up that trust fund if at all possible with federal resources, but trying to figure out the best way we can get back to start building up that trust fund once everyone can return to work and we start seeing more of the surpluses with the premiums that are being collected to get us to a good place. I think the question from Blair Miller, we did advocate to the federal delegation early in December and again in January and February, letting them know how concerned we were that they just put extensions into place with the next stimulus package. rather than creating new eligibility or new programs that states just didn't have the capacity or the ability to put in overnight. And so I think they did listen to us. Phil mentioned they heard us, and hopefully both in the Senate and in the House put in legislation that just extends these programs rather than overlaying new requirements or new eligibility on top of existing programs. So we do think it was a good partnership. There was a lot of voices coming from many states, many advocacy groups, Governor Polis as well, to make sure that the transition would be as least impactful to people losing benefits.
I think I can follow up here a little bit, Joe, too, because Blair has a follow-up question. A couple of things, Blair. We've for years had a very good working relationship with the United States Department of Labor. So I think the important thing here was the push on members of Congress. And so that came from more than just us. It came from various states. It came from agencies or the working in conjunction with the state's National Association of State Workforce Agencies and others to press Congress. And so once Congress creates something that has very little changes, essentially adding money or adding weeks, that also simplifies the task for our federal partners with the United States Department of Labor on issuing guidance. Related to your follow-up question, Blair, on seeing news that Biden will sign the bill today, that would be great news. And that would allow us to continue to follow by having the program down tomorrow night from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. to ensure that the programming was in place at that point in time. There is a little bit of testing that still needs to occur with the programming to ensure that it will run correctly. So again, I don't think that if Biden signs today, that doesn't change us actually implementing it today. It would be implemented tomorrow within the system.
Tamara has a question about folks that are still stuck on fraud holds. How many claims are still outstanding and how many investigators are going through them? Phil, do you want to take that?
So we'll touch on it a little bit, Tamara, because you need to understand that this group grows and shrinks every day as they go through ID.me. So individuals who have program integrity holds who we have sent links to for ID.me also include a vast number of individuals on those early holds on the pandemic unemployment assistance claims that we do not believe are ever going to respond to those links because those claims are truly fraudulent, but we are providing that opportunity to all of those individuals. Since we have sent out all of those links for program integrity holds for ID.me, 35,000 have been completed and cleared. There are 4,000 that require further investigation as a result of the type of hold that is on their claim. So just because an individual successfully passes ID.me does not guarantee 100% that we are going to release the hold right away. For instance, I will give you one fraud hold only here related to egregious holds because we certainly don't want those in the community who are frauding us to know everything that we are looking at. But if you pass ID.me, but everything comes back and you are allegedly deceased, we're not going to pay you. It requires additional confirmation on that behalf. And by the way, if it's showing that you are deceased and you actually are not a fraudster, you have bigger problems than just trying to have everything cleared through us. You're going to need to be reaching out to the Social Security Administration to prove that you're still alive. And we also have about 2,800 responses that have come back where their information is mismatched. It does not match what they have in our system with what is on their ID. So those generally require some additional analysis at this point in time. There are a host of other individuals we are hoping to bring on here shortly through a contract with a vendor that will assist in this realm to clean out some of these backlogged ones on the 4,000 of the 2,800 at this point in time. But again, Tamara, that number changes every day.
I'm going to go back up to a question from Greg McBoat and Charles Ashby for Ryan. They're asking about when we could see county-specific claims data.
All right, so county level claims, I don't have any deadline at all for y'all. We one issue is I don't know how to adjust that for fraudulent activity, given how we filter the data through. And so that does destroy any economic meaning. And we also have a lot of things that need to be addressed from a reporting standpoint, where county level claims production does fall lower on the priority scale. So unfortunately, I can't give you any kind of timetable. What I can do, though, is pitch that we are releasing January employment situation data, labor force data on Monday. And I'm going to really push to like using that data as your kind of benchmark for how coverage recover, especially from our Lao series. Again, unemployment, labor force, employment. We also have another press release for February, and that's on the 26th. I will caution that while we are going to release some benchmark data for the counties, that will be subject to revision through April, and I will keep you posted on that. But for the time being, if you're looking at a economics or data series to gauge how counties are recovering, I'm going to recommend our official estimates that we put out every month.
Just a flag on those two release dates. The release is at 8 a.m. on those dates, the 15th and the 26th, with a corresponding press call at 10.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
You know, I think this is a good opportunity, though, Jessica. I'm going to go back to one of Tamara's questions. Tamara, this is a good opportunity to let you know within the next few weeks, ID Me, we will be moving to have it across the board up front on the entire platform. So that would include state unemployment insurance claims, and then those individuals that have not gone through, as they go through certifications, they will be going through ID Me at that point in time so that we can verify all individuals. So just a reminder, or just something to get out there for people to be aware of in the next few weeks, that should be coming into play where we move that up front on the entire program.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Anything else you want to add? All right, well, I think we will wrap it up early then today and talk to you guys soon.